This week on Spooky Coop, episode 33, we present The Ghost in the Chair. In this spine-tingling episode of Spooky Coop, we explore the story of a haunted chair unlike any other. A seemingly ordinary piece of furniture turns out to be the tether for a restless spirit, one determined to deliver a message to their living partner. Hi everyone, I'm Paul.
And I'm Michelle.
And you're in
The
Spooky Coop.
Welcome to the Spooky Coop. Hope you're not chicken.
Hey, Paul.
Hi Michelle, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Got a bit of a cold, so if you hear me sniffling, that's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Still have it.
Okay. So, thank you everybody out there for joining us. We're
Hi.
really glad that you did.
Hi, our flock.
Yes, and as we start off the year 2025,
Yep.
we wish you all prosperity and good luck.
Yeah.
And thank you for your patronage.
Mm-hmm. And welcome to the Spooky Coop.
And welcome to the Spooky Coop.
If you're not too chicken.
Did you leave those feathers on the floor over there for me to find?
Oh, yeah. Gotta watch out.
And I see part of a beak over there. Is there a plan going on here I don't know about?
Yeah, well, hey.
Or is
There's
this
always something creepy going on here.
And so you have a creepy story for us.
Yeah, and don't ask me where I got it, because I'm not supposed to tell.
Where did you get it?
I can't tell you.
Why not?
Because she made me swear not to tell you.
Pinky swear or real swear? DocuSign swear?
More like it. Hey, so the person who sent me this is really terrified that I'll tell someone, because she really feels freaked out about this. She's a single lady, lives alone in a city out west, all right?
Right.
And she's one of our viewers, listeners. She sent this to me, all right? Now, some time ago, she's an older lady, lives alone, has adult kids, grandchildren, and stuff like that. And she collects antiques. Mostly she collects little figurines, you know, the little people's figurines.
Right.
And she was out at the dentist. And right next to the dentist is this store that sells antiques. And she was out at the dentist, and when she got out of the dentist, it was pouring rain out. And instead of running to her car in the pouring rain because she forgot her umbrella, she thought, wow, this is a great idea just to go to the antique store. And when she went into the antique store, she had this like really, really intense feeling to go into the antique furniture section. And she's like, I live in a one-bedroom senior apartment. I don't have room for furniture. Besides, I don't collect antique furniture. I wouldn't know where to begin with antique furniture. So she tried to, kind of pass that and go back to where she usually collects things. But she just couldn't help herself. She just felt like something was calling her to the antique furniture. So she thought, I'll walk through there, I'll realize that there's nothing there for me, or maybe there's a little figurine they're using to decorate something and it's something I really want.
Right.
And she wasn't thinking spooky, she was just thinking, something, my better senses, my sort of like her spider sense.
Right.
So she went into that area and she looked around, there was nothing there that kind of got her senses going, something that made her think she liked it, and she was about to walk out, but then she really got a pull towards the back.
Mm-hmm.
And she went sort of towards the back past this area where the real antiques were, and she saw this kind of junky 1970s barrel chair on a swivel. Now,
barrel chair on a swivel.
Yeah, a lot of people probably don't remember these or have never even seen them.
Did they display it on a shag rug by chance?
Yeah. It was a piece of crap, she said. It was like broken, the metal, these things, I don't know if you don't remember them or you don't want to look them up on the internet, they kind of looked like beer barrels that had seats made from them, and they had sort of like a faux leather inside, and they were like kind of on swivels made to be put in front of bars or something. Some of them were smaller and put in front of, put in living rooms or in front of tables. They were a very kitschy late 60s, early 70s thing. And this one obviously had probably been in storage in a wet place, because it was really, the wood was kind of warped. The metal bands that went around it, like a barrel, one of them was kind of missing or bent or something. She said it was in terrible shape.
Right.
And it was basically a piece of garbage. But somehow she heard in her head like a voice saying, "Take me home." And she's thinking to herself, why am I thinking that I need this chair? So she found someone to work there, and she said, "What's up with this chair?" And the guy said, "Oh, we just, do pick up things at estate sales, and we pick up stuff." And this was in somebody's basement. And we usually would just throw this out, but one of our people just picked it up. We were about to throw it out. And she said, "Oh, can I have it?" And the guy said, "What do you want it for?" And she said, "I don't know. I mean, maybe I can turn it into a planter or something in the yard."
He didn't try and sell it to her. He tried to give it away.
Yeah, he just didn't want it. He's like, "Are you sure, lady?" And she said, "Can I get it delivered?" He says, "Yeah, I'll charge you $10 to get it delivered, but you can have the chair."
Right.
So she said, "Sure." And she walked back to her car thinking, what the heck did I do that for? So when she had it delivered, she figured she'd have it delivered to her yard. She'd call up her daughter. Her daughter was an adult, and, she's an older person.
Right.
And she had this little area behind her apartment that was like hers. Every person had like this little tiny area, like a 8 by 10 area or something, very, very small little garden. And she thought if she took the spinning part off, if her and her daughter were able to take that off and, cut out the lining or whatever, she could sort of put it on its side, she was saying, and put some soil in it and kind of make it a flower pot type thing. Put some, whatever. And she thought maybe that's why she wanted it. Maybe somewhere in her head she had this creative thought, and it would be a great project for her and her daughter to do together because, it'd be nice to have her daughter come visit more often and whatnot. That's what she's thinking, okay? But for some reason, when the guy comes to deliver it, she's not thinking. She opens the door, and right away, he brings it in, sits it in the living room. Aside from the fact aside from the fact that it's probably moldy and it smells terrible,
right?
She throws a sheet over it because it looks awful, and she's thinking when her daughter comes the next day, they're going to haul it out to the garden. But that night, she hears in her head again that the chair, needs her, and she's thinking, what's going on? And she hears in her head, "Please come talk to me." And now she's starting to think she needs to speak to her doctor. Things are going nuts. And no matter what she does, all night long, she tosses and turns because she has this feeling that the chair needs her for some reason. That the chair just...
It wanted a seat at the table.
But the chair just seemed to want her. So finally, the next morning, she uncovers the chair and she sits on her sofa across from the chair. And she said the room was very small. She was practically knee toe with the chair. And her daughter finally calls and says, "Mom, I really can't go today. I'm really sorry. I'll see you tomorrow." And she sits there and she stares at the chair all day long. She said she couldn't take her eyes off the chair. She got up, went to the bathroom, got up, made herself something to eat. Pretty much that was all she did, pretty much all day. Otherwise, she sat and stared at the chair. Didn't do anything else. And couldn't she couldn't understand why she couldn't take her eyes off this old
Just
rotten chair.
obsessed all day long.
She was obsessed with it all day.
Right.
So finally, the evening came. I mean, I said to her, "Didn't you even have the TV on?" And she said she had it on, but she didn't look at it. She couldn't. She had no sound on it, couldn't look at it. She just stared at the chair. She said it was almost like she was having a silent conversation with the chair, but she didn't have anything in her head or anything, just stared at it. Well, that night, when she went to bed, she felt like the chair missed her and the chair was calling her. And she said it was awful because she didn't even like the chair. She didn't like the looks of it. Even if the chair was brand new, it wasn't the style she liked.
Right.
So she couldn't be away from it. So she brought some blankets and her pillow and went and slept on the sofa across from the chair, staring at the chair through the night. She was absolutely obsessed with this broken down, old, crappy chair. And then she dreamt of the chair. And she didn't know if she was awake or not, but the chair started talking to her. And
This is truly bizarre. You know that, right? This is really bizarre.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's made just for the spooky. It's a perfect type of stuff for our podcast.
Right.
But the chair said to her that it needed something. A
cushion?
Every chair needs a cushion. And the chair was sad. It said it was crying, and it knew her name, and it asked for help. And it was crying, and it asked for help. And she was like, "How do I help you? I don't know how to help you." Well, the next day she said her daughter came, and her daughter said, "Well, the first thing we have to do is unscrew this base, and then we have to take it apart." And as soon as she started to do that, her mother, this woman, felt that the chair was screaming. And so she told her daughter, "Don't touch it, don't touch it, don't touch it." And then she told her daughter what was happening. And her daughter said, "You stay here, Mom." And her daughter felt that she was having,
A fit?
no, what do
A
you call it?
psychotic break?
Yeah, in hallucinations. So her daughter said, "We're going to make an appointment with the doctor." Yeah, she said, "We're going to make an appointment with your doctor." So she, her daughter went away and stuff to call the doctor or whatever. But in the meantime, the chair kept talking to her, and she could hear the chair talk to her. But the chair only seemed to mumble and whisper in the day. But at night, when she went to bed, that night...
So she was audibly hearing or in her head hearing this stuff?
She didn't specify.
Right, okay.
But that night, she heard the chair, and the woman said, "What do you want me to do? My daughter's going to put me in the hospital. The doctor's going to put me on heavy medication, and I won't be able to help. You need to tell me what to do." And she got up and sat in the chair. I said to her, "How did you sit in it? It might have collapsed." She said, "I sat in it. It didn't. It was..."
Right.
And the chair told her she was a woman. The woman didn't tell me the name. She was afraid to tell me the name. She only told me her first name was Janet. When Janet was young, she had been sitting in that chair. Janet was married to a man. His name was Clark. Okay? They used to fight a lot. Janet, this was in 1973. Janet and Clark were fighting. And Janet decided she was drunk. So in the heat of this argument, she really wanted to hurt him. And the only thing she could think of doing was, the worst thing she could do to hurt him was to unalive herself. And so that's what she decided to do. She decided to unalive herself in this stool, on this barrel chair. And so she attached to this barrel chair because of what she did to herself. And over time, things happen. Now, she told this woman that she needed, or she felt that she needed to apologize to her husband. Oh, you can hear the spooky dog howls in the background. Isn't that wild? That is really wild. We live near a forest, and you can hear like the coyotes out there in the wild. So she ended up telling this woman she wanted her to contact her ex-husband, or her husband. I say ex-husband, I guess he is ex because of her condition, and tell him that she is horribly sorry for what she did, and she can't move on until she knows he's forgiven her. And she wants him to know that she still loves him, and she is very, very sorry that she unalived herself, especially in front of him, like that.
Right. And should we note for our audience that we're using the word unalive because that's following the guidelines of some of the broadcasting stations that our podcast is sent through?
Yeah, and also when this gets up on YouTube, they don't allow that other word.
So anyway, this woman, when she passed, attached to the chair.
To the chair, yes.
Her spirit or ghost attached to the chair, and wherever the chair went, she went too.
That's right. So she told her daughter, and her daughter thought this was part of her illness that her daughter thought she had. The psychiatrist her daughter talked to said, well, why don't you play along? Tell her we'll destroy the chair, and that will release the spirit, and everything will be fine. So she told this spirit connected to the chair, and the spirit said, no, even if the chair's destroyed, I'll always be connected to whatever is left of the chair, ashes or whatever, and then I'll blow away, and I'll never go anywhere. She said the only thing she could do was to contact this man. She said to her daughter, how am I going to contact him? I don't know how. I don't even know if he's still alive. So she did what she could, and she went on Facebook, but she couldn't find him. So her daughter decided, well, I better prove to her that this man doesn't even exist. If he existed, he'd be on Facebook. They went on to Ancestry.com, and she, using the name of this person, found out that there was a man who was once married to her and had remarried, and her mother, the woman who heard the woman in the chair, insisted on contacting him and found out that the story was true. And she told him about the chair, even though her daughter was saying, no, you can't do this, don't bring this poor man into this. She told him about it all. And on the phone, the man started crying, and he said, tell her I never stopped loving her. Tell her I never blamed her for what happened. I knew when all this happened, I was angry for a while, but then I realized that it was both of us, that we were never meant to be. I felt responsible after I felt angry, and then after many years, I realized that this is no one's fault. It was just a horrible thing, and I forgave her a long time ago, decades ago. Apparently, the man was in his mid-80s, and he was so glad that she never blamed him, because he blamed himself for a long time.
Right.
I guess there were other words, very emotional words. This woman told the woman in the chair, and the woman in the chair apparently must have heard it herself, because that night there were no voices. That night there was no drawing to the chair. She didn't dream about the chair. There was no feelings around the chair.
So the energy of this woman's ghost or spirit finally moved on.
Absolutely gone. And then the next morning she told her daughter. Of course, her daughter thought that maybe her mental illness was better because of this. And her daughter said, so, do we take the chair out and put it in the garden, make it a planter? And her mother said, nope, put it on the side of the road, call the city, tell them to come and trash it. And that was her story.
Wow. That's an interesting ghost story.
Yeah.
About a ghost attaching to a physical object, which is very common.
Yeah, a lot of times ghosts do attach to objects. Sometimes ghosts attach to pieces of ground. Sometimes they attach to people. Your mother was very haunted.
I believe my mother was haunted.
She looked it too.
And before she died, she vowed that she would haunt me too.
And she has.
She has, yes. That's a very interesting story.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
So tell me more about your mom.
Well, I can tell two funny little stories about her. The first one is her clairvoyance manifested through her dreams in a lot of cases. And she used to dream about this farmhouse over and over. She dreamt about it for 20 plus years. And one day, and this was in British Columbia, on the west coast of Canada, in an area around Coquitlam, way back when it was farmland and not too much urban development. She and my father drove home. She burst through the door and said, "I found it." I said, "What?" I was very young. She said, "I found the farmhouse I've dreamt about for all these years." And I "You're kidding?" And she said, "No, we actually found it." And as she's telling me this, my father walks through the door, looks at me, shakes his head with this bizarre look in his eyes like he can't believe it. I said, "So what are you going to do?" She said, "Nothing. I know where it is now."
She didn't even want to go in or knock on the door?
Aren't you going to go knock on the door and find out? And no, my father had a very public job at the time, so there was a lot of decorum that they had to follow. But she never did go up and knock on the house, so far as I knew, to find out. I think it was one of those former life things that you remember, a past life event.
There. Your mom probably remembered a lot about that stuff.
Yeah. Another event happened when they were at a party, and they had to be on their best behavior at the parties, the business parties that they went to. And my mother walked in, and she immediately recognized the house. Never been there before. She's looking around and walked into a room, looked at it, it was all blue, and she thought, "Boy, did Joyce do a nice job on this room." And she looked over at the hostess and realized, somebody pointed out, she said, "This is the hostess over here." And she said, "Oh, yes, that's Joyce, yeah." And so she walked up to her and said, "Joyce, you've done such a wonderful job on the room. The blue was a perfect choice over the red that used to be here." And Joyce looked at her. And my mother said she realized that Joyce had never met her before, and this was all a dream that she had had previously. And she looked at Joyce and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And then turned around and ran away over to the hors d'oeuvre bar. She said through the evening, it was horribly uncomfortable. Through the evening, the hostess would look over at her, Joyce would look over at her strangely.
Oh, your mom was so good at that.
And she was my father had to stay because he was, it was a party with business associates. She was stuck.
Yeah.
But anyway, those were two of the funnier stories of the wonderful gift of clairvoyance that she passed down through the family to us all.
Yeah, she was something else. Yeah.
I think that we have had quite a run today. This is a really good story that you told.
Yeah. Well, strange things happen to people.
Yeah. Hauntings and ghosts and how they manifest, the ways in which they try to reach through to our earthly plane.
Yeah, they have to find a way to use the things around us to talk to us.
Yes.
And we have to have an open mind. A lot of people would have said, "Wow, that chair, I'm having dreams about that chair, I'm just going to throw it out." And some people would have had that chair around for years and not had the ability to hear it. It's like some people move into haunted houses and they can live their whole life in that house and never have a thing happen to them.
Yeah.
And another person could be there, and 10 minutes they could walk in that house to sell Girl Scout cookies, and weird things will happen. It's just really amazing. Really amazing how some things
I would think
pan
that
out
for
to
the
others.
most part, some of the best conversations you and I have had have been with ghosts when we were
yeah.
ghost hunting.
Well, yeah, because ghosts are like, you can hear me? Thank God you can hear me. Let me tell you all these things. And the other thing that's interesting is, just like you said, some people will take a ghost meter, like one of those ghost meters
ghost
out.
meter.
A spirit box.
Right.
They'll take it out somewhere, and then they'll get nothing or nothing any good. And then we might take it out, or some other people who are sensitive take it out. They get amazing stuff.
Right. That seems to be the key factor in getting good data, is if the people you are with are sensitive or in some way, on some level, psychic, that are able to raise that energy to help open the door for consciousness on the other side to be able to talk back and be heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have to raise up some type of psychic energy.
That's right.
To help promote that to happen.
Mm-hmm. Because we've gone places and got amazing things, and then other people go and they're like, you guys must be crazy because I went there and I got nothing.
Right.
And then we take them there and we get stuff, and they're like, how come that didn't happen? Well, we went.
Very uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. Yeah. Anyway, so really, maybe we'll do a show on some of that, on the best way to go there. And I wanted to do something on on what happens that makes a person a ghost. We have like 20 different reasons, and we could talk about each of them.
And how to help a ghost pass over.
Yeah, how to
be
help
able
a
to
ghost
leave.
cross over. I think only Jewish ghosts pass over.
Oh, dear, that's terrible.
That's a terrible, terrible joke.
The other thing
When you're in our
always want to
business, you
do,
hear terrible jokes
if
like
it's
that.
If it's a male ghost, you want to ask them where's your wallet?
That works.
And then they realize they don't have their wallet, and gradually come to realize that they have in fact died.
Yeah, where's
They're
your
a ghost.
wallet? I don't know. I don't know. You must have left it in there. Where? In the light. You see that bright light room
The
over
room
there?
with the bright light in it.
Yeah, that's where the lost and found is. Why don't you follow into that light and get it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, that's
it
one of
works.
many stories for yet another episode down
That's
the road.
right. Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
Ghost
and
hunting 101.
everybody who
Effective
has
ghost hunting
effective
101.
ghost hunting 101. Thank you, everyone, for joining in to hear us today. We're really
That's right.
grateful for your patronage. Please like us and rate us.
And
Please like us.
like us and join.
Yes, subscribe.
Subscribe to the Coop.
Yeah.
Become one of our flock.
So we wish you a week of hope and wonder.
Yep.
Until next time,
When we see you
in
in the
Spooky Coop.